Either we heal as a team, or we're going to crumble. Inch by inch, play by play, till we're finished. We're in hell right now, gentlemen, believe me. And we can stay here, get the shit kicked out of us, or we can fight our way back into the light. We can climb out of hell. 1 inch at a time. You know, when you get old in life, things get taken from you. I mean, that's part of life. But you only learn that when you start losing stuff. You find out life's this game of inches. So is football. Because in either game, life or football, the margin for error is so small. I mean, 1/2 a step too late or too early, and you don't quite make it. 1/2 second too slow, too fast, you don't quite catch it. The inches we need are everywhere around us. They're in every break of the game, every minute, every second. On this team, we fight for that inch. On this team, we tear ourselves and everyone else around us to pieces for that inch. We claw our fingernails for that inch. Because we know when we add up all those inches, that's going to make the fucking difference between winning and losing. Between living and dying. I'll tell you this, in any fight, it's the guy who's willing to die who's going to win that inch. And I know if I'm going to have any life anymore, it's because I'm still willing to fight and die for that inch. Because that's what living is. There's 6 inches in front of your face. Now I can't make you do it. You got to look at the guy next to you. Look into his eyes. Now I think you're going to see a guy who will go that inch with you. You're going to see a guy who will sacrifice himself for this team because he knows when it comes down to it, you're going to do the same for him. That's a team, gentlemen. And either we heal now as a team, or we will die as individuals.
Ideas are bulletproof.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another live edition of Down the Rabbit Hole here on the Orion Talk Radio Network. I'm your host, Popeye from FederalJack.com. It is February 5th, 2012, and I am pleased that my show today will be running up against the Stupid Bowl. That's right, I have no love for the NFL or any organized sports. I think it's all a waste of time. I think grown men running around in parking lots dressed up, pretending to be the quarterback that they wish they could be, tackling each other and slapping each other on the rear ends is pathetic. You know, wearing horns on your head and running around screaming like a moron or painting your face blue and silver or whatever colors you paint your face. And, you know, morons sitting out in the snow with their favorite player's number on their stomach. So, yeah, I have no love for any of that crap. None of it. And I played sports when I was a kid, but I think that organized sports today, you know, when you get older, I think it's something for children to do. And then when you get older, you shouldn't be doing it. We shouldn't be looking at grown men that play, you know, get overpaid by, I don't know, I guess I wouldn't say billions, but let's say like tens of millions of dollars to play a sport that kids play. And we idolize them. We shouldn't look at them like they're gods. And the Super Bowl is a mass distraction. And Big Brother is right there, aren't they? Full body scanners. Can't bring anything inside. No recording devices. That's terrorism. Having a hoodie on. I'm not kidding. This is what DHS told hot dog vendors. People with hoodies. That's terrorist activity. You could be a terrorist. For real. This is what this country's come to. In 10 years ago, we weren't this bad. And we have gone down the crapper very fast. And part of the reason is because grown-ass men who should be paying attention to politics and what people are doing to their women and their children. No, you're busy rooting for some stupid football team. Which, does that guy do anything for you? Huh? Does he do anything for you? Does he give you money? Does he take care of your kids? Is he going to protect your kids from what's coming? No. You know what he does? He distracts you. You wish you could be him. You want to emulate him. Whoever the player is, quarterback, whoever. Maybe you like the coach. It's pathetic. So for all the meatheads that are out there, and I'm not making fun of anybody that likes sports either. Don't take that the wrong way. But I think that this country, well, I know that this country has been distracted by things like organized sports. And it's been distracted to the point where we're at the edge of the cliff, and the men of the country who are supposed to be, the protectors, the hunter-gatherers, they're busy, playing fantasy football with each other, which is nothing more than Dungeons and Dragons with jocks. This is, what have we come to? Our founding fathers, I can guarantee you that the founding fathers are rolling over in their graves right now. Wherever they are, wherever we go when we die, they're looking at us going, what the hell is wrong with them? Men in this country have been emasculated throughout the years, and the only masculine thing that they have is like organized sports, like football. So everybody runs around, raw, my team, it's awesome. My team beat your team, raw. I live vicariously through someone else, although I make no money and get nothing for it. Raw. Just irritates me every year. As a real man, that crap irritates me. Real men aren't made because they sit and watch football and drink a beer on Sunday. That's not what makes you a real man. What makes you a real man is educating yourself, taking care of your kids if you have them, taking care of your wife, standing up for what's right, doing the right thing, having personal accountability for things. Being a man, it doesn't make you a man, I should say, to sit on the couch and watch football. Yeah, man, that quarterback, he sucks. Man, if you were on that field, nothing, you fat, lazy prick. That guy's in shape and you're not. And you're wasting your time watching this crap on television. TiVo it and watch it later when you got a chance. Pay attention. If you want to watch the Super Bowl, TiVo it and watch it later. Don't pay attention to it. When it's airing live. Don't give it that feed. Don't give it that power. It's like lemmings, man. Like just sheep to the slaughter. They turn the idiot box on and everybody comes running. Football. Nobody pays attention to what's going on at all. I guarantee you today, try to interject some truth into a conversation during the game. They won't understand anything you're talking about. Then go ahead and ask them the stats of one of the football players. I guarantee you, they'll be able to read off their date of birth, their blood type, when was the last time they took a crap, what color underwear they wear. But then ask them about the Constitution, ask them what the first 10 amendments are. Ask them what the first 5 amendments are. They won't know. Ask them what the first 3 amendments are. First 2. Ask them what the first 2 amendments are, and they won't know. So, I mean, the country is... I'm not being all doom and gloom here. It just irritates me when I see grown men who should be standing up and doing something. And instead you're watching football. You'll talk smack, and I would do this, man. I would tackle him. I would take him out. I'd kick so-and-so's ass. But then you go to the airport and you let some fat, greasy TSA agent grab your wife's boobs or fondle your kids. That's being a real man? No. I told my wife we can't fly because if we fly and somebody touches her, I'm going to jail because I will not tolerate someone putting their hands on my wife. See, I'm secure in my manhood that I know what I will do. I don't need to watch a football game to get all pumped up and be manly because I'm willing to let my wife get groped by some fat slob because he wears a pretend uniform and a plastic badge that says TSA on it. They're not even real badges. There's a bill in Congress to make it so that they can't have the badges and can't call themselves officers or agents because they're neither. They're neither sworn peace officers or agents of the federal government. They're overpaid security guards that they cleaned house of all the people with morals, and most of the people that work for TSA, and not all of them, but the ones that do the groping and all that and think they're tough, they're the ignorant. They're the shallower end of the gene pool. We're going to break. We'll be right back. Stay tuned. It's F Super Bowl Sunday. F the Super Bowl Sunday, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to F the Super Bowl Sunday. I cannot stand the Super Bowl. I think it is used for mass mind control and conditioning, keeping people, occupied. Bread and circus. The Roman Colosseum is a perfect example of bread and circus. What they actually used to call it bread and circus. That's what they used to do. They give bread to the hungry, and then the circus part was the gladiator games and stuff like that, and they would keep people occupied while Rome was burning and literally Roman society was collapsing. And that's what's going on today. And again, real men would be mad at this. They would educate themselves and find out who the enemy is. They wouldn't be rooting for some fictional enemy or against the fictional enemy, which is what this football game is. It attacks a male's primal, or I shouldn't say it attacks. It's based and aimed at a male's primal instincts to be a fighter. And instead of a man researching and getting involved in the info war and the revolution of knowledge that's going on, they get caught up in this, my team's going to kick your team's ass, rah! And it's physical enough that they're tackling people and stuff like that. So there is some physical contact in there that all feeds into the male psyche. And again, this is all stuff that Bertrand Russell and all these morons, going back 100 years, if not more, all studied. And I shouldn't say morons because they were actually intelligent men, but it's an I shouldn't use ad hominem attacks against them, even though they're evil. But I do once in a while because these people are sick, and the people that emulate them today are even sicker. But they know how to control the male psyche. They know how to control that, that part of us that makes us want to lead others into battle and, fight the good fight. Well, all that stuff gets covered in your football games or in your basketball games, baseball games, stuff like that. Mostly football, but basketball is another form of they've kind of turned it into another form of the gladiatorial games, contest, bread and circus. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to fight that bread and circus, okay? And we're going to do it right now. It's called Operation Info Jam the Super Bowl. I want everybody out there to turn up, anybody that's listening to the stream, turn up the speakers really loud, okay? If you have it on your home entertainment system on TuneIn, put it on your Roku box or whatever it's on. Tune it into Orion, okay? Tune it in your car, your home stereo system, whatever. Put it on your speakerphone and walk through the store. And I'm going to play the JFK speech, warning about secret societies, okay? And while I do that, I want you guys, anybody who's listening live right now, Twitter, Facebook, just info jam the hell out of them. Okay, you're going to see the Super Bowl, you're going to see the game and the puppy ball and all this other crap trending. Hijack those topics. Take them and, if it says, hashtag Super Bowl, put that and then put even if you put a title that kind of, watch Super Bowl live here or whatever. Do something to kind of get them to go to that link. And then in the link, you put a link about, the FDA, aspartame, vaccines, something, the police state. There you go. Better yet, put links about the police state and the kind of things that are going on around the Super Bowl, like the full body scans, the loss of liberty, all this other stuff. Perfect. info-jam the hell out of the Super Bowl. So I hope everybody's ready. Turn your speakers up, okay? Because John F. Kennedy, President Kennedy, is going to come back from the dead for a few minutes, and he is going to himself info-jam the Super Bowl. Take it away, President Kennedy.
President John F. Kennedy.
Ladies and gentlemen, the very word secrecy is repugnant in a free and open society. And we are, as a people, inherently and historically opposed to secret societies, to secret oaths, and to secret proceedings. We decided long ago that the dangers of excessive and unwarranted concealment of pertinent facts far outweighed the dangers which are cited to justify it. Even today, there is little value in opposing the threat of a closed society by imitating its arbitrary restrictions. Even today, there is little value in ensuring the survival of our nation if our traditions do not survive with it. And there is very grave danger that an announced need for increased security will be seized upon by those anxious to expand its meaning to the very limits of official censorship and concealment. That I do not intend to permit to the extent that it's in my control. And no official of my administration, whether his rank is high or low, civilian or military, should interpret my words here tonight as an excuse to censor the news, to stifle dissent, to cover up our mistakes, or to withhold from the press and the public the facts they deserve to know. For we are opposed around the world by a monolithic and ruthless conspiracy that relies primarily on covert means for expanding its sphere of influence, on infiltration instead of invasion, on subversion instead of elections, on intimidation instead of free choice, on guerrillas by night instead of armies by day. It is a system which has conscripted vast human and material resources into the building of a tightly knit, highly efficient machine that combines military, diplomatic, intelligence, economic, scientific, and political operations. Its preparations are concealed, not published. Its mistakes are buried, not headlined. Its dissenters are silenced, not praised. Dissenters are silenced, not praised. No expenditure is questioned, no rumor is printed, no secret is revealed. No president should fear public scrutiny of his program, for from that scrutiny comes understanding, and from that understanding comes support or opposition, and both are necessary. I am not asking your newspapers to support an administration, but I am asking your help in the tremendous task of informing and alerting the American people. For I have complete confidence in the response and dedication of our citizens whenever they are fully informed. I not only could not stifle controversy among your readers, I welcome it. This administration intends to be candid about its errors. For as a wise man once said, an error doesn't become a mistake until you refuse to correct it. We intend to accept full responsibility for our errors, and we expect you to point them out when we miss them. Without debate, without criticism, no administration and no country can succeed, and no republic can survive. That is why the Athenian lawmaker Solon decreed it a crime for any citizen to shrink from controversy. And that is why our press was protected by the First Amendment, the only business in America specifically protected by the Constitution, not primarily to amuse and entertain, not to emphasize the trivial and the sentimental, not to simply give the public what it wants, but to inform, to arouse, to reflect, to state our dangers and our opportunities, to indicate our crises and our choices, to lead, mold, educate, and sometimes even anger public opinion.
There you go, ladies and gentlemen. Operation InfoJam the Super Bowl. We'll be right back. Ladies and gentlemen, we are back with the the Super Bowl Sunday special here on Down the Rabbit Hole. And today, since I am dissecting the Super Bowl and dissecting bread and circus, I decided to bring on somebody who could help me dissect it and crap all over the Super Bowl and have some fun with me. And I couldn't think of any better person to do that than my friend Bob Tuscan. So Bob, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks, Popeye. I appreciate it. Today I will not be watching the Super Bowl. Are you surprised?
No.
I see the listeners, they're not surprised. Well, and there's a reason for that, and we can get into it. We can also talk about the greater use of the Tavistock Institute device, otherwise known as the television. It's not just days like today where everybody is attached to the television, watching the mindless circus and eating their bread or their pizza. By the way, today's a big pizza day. It's the number 4 best-selling food day in the country. So it's great for Domino's and great for Pizza Hut. And also great for alcohol suppliers. And, of course, alcohol is a big part of the conditioning of the people of this world. The powers that shouldn't be, if they can keep you drunk and in that sort of stupor where you're killing your brain cells, you kill more brain cells with a night of heavy drinking than you do with several months of smoking cannabis. So, again, there's so many different things we could talk about this, and I don't want to get too much on too much of a rant in the beginning here, but I'm sure we'll cover a lot of this and so much more.
Well, the first 2 segments I spent info jamming the Super Bowl. I asked the listeners to, take whatever Super Bowl hashtags and trending topics they see on Twitter and use them to, hey, did you see this play in the Super Bowl? And then put a link to the police state that's going on, in accordance with the Super Bowl,
idea.
Or info jam. And then I played Kennedy's speech about the New World Order, and I had them turn up their speakers and everything. So hopefully that helped. Cool. But we should really, ladies and gentlemen, we should really continue the info jam for the next 2 hours at least, if not further. But just info jam the hell out of the Super Bowl. And remember, Illuminati cult favorite Madonna will be doing the halftime show. So look forward to some Illuminati-themed crap to be coming out. I'm sure there'll be a pyramid or pillars.
Yes, and
I'm going to bet there'll be a... What do you think, Bob? Yeah. Pyramid, pillars, and an archway in somewhere?
I don't know if that's the same symbolism that you would expect from the Kabbalistic research that she's into. It makes you wonder. I am from a Jewish family, as many of your listeners know, but I got to be honest, I know very little about the Kabbalah, and I've had Mark Passio on my show a number of different times explaining it to me. He seems to think that there is a positive side to it, and it's more about enlightenment than anything sinister or malevolent. But I'm interested in what's going to happen, what sort of little tidbits they're going to be putting in people's brains, that sort of thing. We know there will be subliminals. We know that the commercials are a big part of this. I mean, they spend so much money, so many resources on these commercials this one day of the year, and you're going to be, you better be, careful with watching it, because even if you're awake or so-called awake, there are still things that we can't defend we can't defend ourselves from. And there's the little subliminals and that kind of thing. And I think the Super Bowl is a day in which we're prone to see more of that on the Tavistock Institute device.
Well, that's exactly what this is. I mean, was it George Orwell that wrote the book? I know he wrote in 1984, but I think he wrote another one called The New World Order, if I remember correctly. And in it, they talked about using stadiums, like baseball stadiums and football stadiums, to get people to watch sports and keep them occupied and stuff. And this is before they had, organized sports. But that's what they talked about doing in the book. And look where we are today. People are just dumbed down. Yeah. Like I said the first second, Bob, I was ragging on the guys that paint the numbers on their chests and run around emulating their favorite sports star. Blah.
I mean, it's disturbing. There was a great article written about this in the American Free Press, talking about today as being the modern-day Colosseum. And that's what it is. In ancient Rome, the government gave the general population free bread and circuses in the form of games held at the Colosseum. These games were one-sided affairs that pitifully armed and armored Roman champions against unarmed gladiator slaves. So they got off to this kind of trauma-based stuff, and football's not too different. People get hurt all the time. It's a very violent sport, and they glamorize the violence with it. And in addition to that, I don't think the analogy is too different, or I don't think the nature of it is too different than a fancy analogy for war. I mean, if you look at it and you break it down, it's an us versus them, divide and conquer sort of thing. If they can keep you divided so that you're more concerned about your football team rather than the state of this planet and these evil pedophile scumbags that are coming after you and your family and your brothers and sisters in your community, then of course you're not going to be able to address the problems that we have in today's world. So I see it as a divide and conquer sort of thing, and also a fancy analogy for war. Like I said, us versus them. It's no different in many respects. And in addition to that, Popeye, I'd like to add a quick disclaimer here, though, that I do support exercise and playing sports if you choose to. As long as you're careful about it and you're not overexerting yourself in a way that's going to put your life in risk, I think it's a great idea to get some exercise. Perhaps a lot of you listening right now should probably turn off the radio and go do a little bit of jogging or go play some basketball or whatever. And I'm not trying to insult the listeners, but that being said, I think we underestimate the power of exercise, and sports is an easy way to do that.
Well, that's why technology is wonderful, Bob, and they can just take their cell phones with their mobile app for TuneIn, and they can download it for free to their smartphone, and then they can plug headphones into it and run around, and they can actually listen to the show on the go. So you never have to – we can go with you. We can be like the little angel and the devil on your shoulder just talking your ear off.
That's exactly right. So you can take these shows and you can put them on a podcast or whatever and take them with you as you're exercising. I like that.
But I agree. People need to get out more often and do some exercise, you know. I do that. Like, I've been listening to a lot of the old May Brussels stuff. So what I do is I download like 10 or 15 of them onto the memory card on my phone. And then as I have a little MP3 player on my phone, and then as I'm out and about during the day or doing stuff, or if I want to go exercise or do whatever, I can just listen to it, press play, throw it in my pocket, and listen to it, and then go about my business and do my thing. And I'm doing two things at once. So we are capable of doing more than just two things at once, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, I do it all the time. I get the Desperate Housewives reruns, and I put that on my iPod, and I listen to the audio as I'm exercising.
I thought you were actually a Real Housewives kind of guy yourself.
That's what I meant. That's the one I meant. The Real Housewives, not Desperate Housewives. The Real Housewives. That's the one I like.
Bob is a fan of reality television, ladies and gentlemen.
No, I'm not. Obvious joke. I think any of the listeners that know me will know that I've thrown out my television many, many years ago. And I got to admit, though, I use it as a planter. Actually, it's funny. I got to take video of this yard here in my area. There's a yard, and they got a little bit innovative with the landscaping in that they put TVs all over the yard in strange positions, all run-down old TVs. Pretty cool. It's like a TV wasteland. It's kind of cool. I'll have to film that and do a little tidbit for our YouTube channel, Not For Sale, the number 2 NWO, and you can look forward to that at some point when I get to it.
That's cool. That's probably going to end up in one of those magazines like Weird US or whatever.
Yeah, it's kind of a weird lawn, and it's cool. It's another little one of those subtleties of a college
Are they being
town.
used as planters, or are they just TV.
There are. I believe that there were some of them being planted out of, but I would imagine that's probably not the best. I mean, we got all sorts of plastics, all sorts of other junk. That's not the material you're going to want to use. But that being said, you better start planning, folks, and maybe we'll talk about that at some point tonight.
I agree. Ladies and gentlemen, we're about to get cut off. Bob and I will be back in 3 minutes. Don't go to the Super Bowl at all while we're gone. Do something more constructive. So what are you missing and not seeing while you're paying attention to the stupid bowl? I'll tell you what you're missing. You're missing a cop in Melbourne, Florida, beating a man so hard, a 66-year-old man, so hard with his fists, that the man now requires 24-hour care around the clock because he can't mentally do things anymore. He's really not here. I mean, he can sit on the couch and, in clothes, but he needs help getting dressed and everything else. And this was a guy that ran his own company. And Bob, you're up closer to Melbourne than I am, so this might even hit home a little closer to you. But here, check this out.
And new at 6 from Brevard County. Tonight, only Eyewitness News has obtained dash cam video of a violent police beating in Melbourne. As Channel 9's Mary Wynn reports, in this video, you can see an officer hitting and kicking a 66-year-old man with dementia for no apparent reason. We want to warn you, the video is graphic.
This is dash cam video of Melbourne police officer Derek Middendorf giving...
Who looks like a linebacker. He squares up and kicks the guy right in the midsection, gets him on the ground, and just starts beating him. Guy was unarmed. It's disgusting. I'll drop it in the chat room for the chatters so they can at least see it.
Couldn't tell if the 66-year-old had a knife in his hands. Flowers' nephew Garrick yelled at the officer to stop and told him his uncle had dementia.
He's 66 years old. He had a triple bypass. I'm just concerned about my uncle. I'm thinking he's killing him.
Flowers owns a lawn
Popeye,
an employee called.
I can't listen to this. Okay, I played this on my show probably 2 weeks ago now, and don't watch the video, folks, because it is so traumatic that it is disturbing me just hearing the audio from it again. Popeye, this is an example.
So you've seen the video yourself? I've
seen the video, and it is so freaking disturbing.
Dude, it was brutal, dude, the way he beat that old man.
They sucker kicked the guy out of nowhere, out of thin air. And of course, he mysteriously got rid of the footage at first, but luckily they were able to recover it. This is another example of why people take this sort of thing out on the police in general, which I don't want to happen. I hate the people out there, the agent provocateurs perhaps, that take something like this and they say, oh, we got to kill the pigs. That's not the right attitude to have. We need to hold the public servants accountable. That is the response. That is the proper response that needs to be had here. Okay, so Popeye, again, it was very disturbing, and I mean, this is something that, again, yeah, people watch the Super Bowl, know all about who's in the Super Bowl. I couldn't tell you who's in the Super Bowl, and I could not tell you, and I don't care. Don't even drop it in the chat. I don't care. Don't tell me. Okay, it's all the same to me. But I could tell you about this traumatic, troubling story. I could tell you about Building 7 when 3 out of 4 New Yorkers don't even know about the building. Okay, Rudolph, he knew about the building. Okay, and I asked him, I said, what happened with Building 7, Rudolph? And he looked at me and he told me... Well, actually, let's
get into that, Bob, because I wanted to grill you on that a little bit at some point tonight while I had you on, because I haven't gotten a chance to have you on my show since you did that. And for the listeners that don't know, which I'm sure you do because the video went viral, Bob and one of his friends confronted Rudy Giuliani, and they were promptly escorted out, and Rudy Giuliani had the weakest comeback ever known to man, to the point that about 98% of the comments on the video said pretty much the same thing, that just what a shill, what a scumbag. So, Bob, tell the listeners what you did and, any repercussions or anything since then.
I did what anybody who's aware of what this criminal douchebag has done would do if he was to come in your backyard. Folks, a guy comes into your backyard. Let me paint the picture for you. He raped your grandmother. He killed your uncle, okay? He comes into your backyard, and who cares if he's wearing a fancy suit? What do? Now, I know a lot of people are going to say you get violent, but that's not the way in which, unfortunately, we can deal with these criminals because, well, that feeds into it. These puppets only thrive off of that sort of Hegelian dialectic. So I did what anybody would do if they knew that this scumbag was coming into their backyard, and I was able to, and I say backyard, he came to the university here that I live near. And I was very ready for him, Popeye. And when we got there, we were told that they changed the question and answer process that has normally been used in past events to having to write down your question on a piece of paper and then hand it in, which of course allows them to censor and select your comments or remove your comments. And we knew better. We knew that wasn't going to fly. If you watch the past confrontations I've had, whether it was with Penn and Teller or Valerie Plame, any of these individuals that I've confronted at these sorts of events at the university, we were able to simply ask our question. We waited at the microphone at the designated time, and we got up there and we asked the question. Well, they changed it, and we believe it was a direct response to us, or Rudolph the Red-Nosed Giuliani decided that he wanted to have greater control over the questions. Now, his security team was quite detailed, and they were absolutely prevalent in the area. In fact, we were asked to leave. They evacuated so that they could do another security sweep after we had all sit down. There was approximately 600 people there. Whoop-de-frickin-doodah, okay? 600 people. We have more people listening to this show right now. Are you kidding me? And those that don't get what we get out of these sorts of confrontations, just know that the 600 people there are not the people we were necessarily interested in converting. We were standing up for two reasons, because you're not going to let a criminal, like I said before, come into your backyard and not say anything. Comes a time where your silence becomes complicit. So I had to say something. I just had to say something. That's the number one reason. The number two reason is because this sort of civil disobedience or this sort of confrontation, for whatever reason, is newsworthy, and people look up to it and they admire it, and it got some press. In the front page of the paper, it was listed right there, front and center, and in the first paragraph of the newspaper article, it says Rudolph Giuliani came to speak at the University of Florida, and in the first moments of the talk, somebody else wanted to change the subject matter to, and then they quote me, "What happened with Building 7, Rudolph?" And now that was only one question that I wanted to use. That was a simple, straightforward message that people could say, well, what is Building 7? Because a lot of people don't even know what the hell happened with Building 7. If you go to a YouTube video I made a while back called Occupy Building 7, you'll see that I did a little man-on-the-street type style interviews, and I asked people whether or not they were familiar with the footage of Building 7, if they had seen it, and so on. Well, no one. And I'm telling you, I must have, and I know this is anecdotal evidence, but in just the small focus group that I interviewed, no one had heard of Building 7. 3 out of 4 New Yorkers, I'm quoting a Remember Building 7 campaign poll, 3 out of 4 New Yorkers had no idea what happened with Building 7. They don't know about it. Remember Building 7 has done great things, putting their commercial in major cities like New York and elsewhere, which I admire, because I believe that watching the footage of Building 7, for those, and I know I'm preaching to the choir right now, I know all the listeners are way past that. That's yesterday's news, if not several years ago news. But for those who don't get it, who are just getting introduced to this for the first time, rather than saying it was an inside job, just tell them watch Building 7. And intuitively, if they watch the footage, they will realize what happened there. Intuitively. I mean, it's so freaking intuitive. Now, that being said, it still astonishes me, Popeye, when people can watch it, and because they've been indoctrinated into the lamestream's lie, they take their logic and throw it out the window because, oh, no, I was told something else. And if I let my intuition and my logic tell me what really is happening here and what I'm watching, then if that's true, what else is true? Then everything else I learned about could be a lie.
It's a circular argument, though, too, because what they'll argue with you and debate you on is based on what NIST and the federal government, quote unquote, official story, official conspiracy theory. So, again, how are you supposed to give me an objective argument where you're looking at it not defending the government, you're looking at it from a neutral position and looking at the evidence? You can't come to the conclusion that what they said happened. You can obviously come to the conclusion, you will come to the conclusion that something differing from what the federal government says happened that day. Buildings don't just fall down. They don't fall down due to fire. Physics doesn't, it's amazing. On the Oklahoma City, I was talking about this with Holland and James when they came on, the guys who did A Noble Lie. The same thing, physics was defied that day in Oklahoma City. It's the same thing. Same thing again. So only on these specific days, Bob, did you notice that physics is defied? It works 365 days a year, but specific times when the terrorists attack. Right? You ever notice that? They have this ability to snap their fingers and physics is no longer a problem. They can just defy everything. It's cool. For people to believe this stuff, you have to be, really, you have, I want to say retarded, but even that's, I wouldn't want to pick on the mentally challenged people because even they can see that this is what's going on. It's more like willful ignorance and mind control and dumbing down and everything else. I know it's a ton of things, ladies and gentlemen. Anyway, we're going to break. Top of the hour. Bob and I will be back in a few minutes. Remember, F the Super Bowl Sunday and info jam it. Info jam the Super Bowl. We'll be right back. We are back with hour number 2 of today's edition of Down the Rabbit Hole. I'm your host, Popeye from FederalJack.com. Today I'm joined by my good friend, fellow activist, radio show host, researcher, and all-around nice guy, Bob Tuskin.
One I want to be.
Bob, you could be a nice guy when you want to be. We've been ripping on the Super Bowl, and I had a great idea, Bob, during the break. This is what I want the listeners to do.
Yeah, but before you do that, would you please pass the Doritos with extra MSG and...
No, in good conscience, I can't do that to a friend of mine and give you that crap. So, sorry.
Well, you're letting me drink Diet Coke. That's all you have here is extra aspartame Diet Coke. And I don't want to drink the fluoride out of the water from your sink.
Ugh.
Jeez. What a nasty host he is.
Not in my house. You wish. There is no way I would ever have unfiltered water, fluoridated water. I have no fluoride in my toothpaste. My dentist is like, you need to put fluoride on your teeth. She's like, I'm going to send you fluoride paste. No, you can keep that. Maybe I'll use it for rat poison or something, but I'm not going to do anything with it that I have no use for it. They actually tell people to put this stuff on their teeth, Bob, and coat their teeth with it and their gums and leave it on overnight.
I eat toothpaste.
Oh, well, that's what happens after you've had too many fluoride treatments. That's about where you're at.
Speaking of fluoride, I don't mean to digress too much here, Popeye, but I posted an article at the intelhub.com. Of course, that's the site I work with, the intelhub.com. Victory for anti-fluoride activist. Major city votes it out. Right here in our home state, Pinellas County, one of the largest counties in Florida, voted it out of their water supply with a series of tense 4-3 votes. And I'm very proud of my fellow activists in Pinellas County that have worked very hard. I know there's a few listeners to the show, Chris Steiner and others that were part of this, and I appreciate what they did. It's a major victory. It's an example, in my opinion, of a way in which we can take these sorts of grassroots efforts and directly combat the powers that shouldn't be who are trying to dumb you down, and hence why we have such great candidates for our police departments, preemptively kicking 66-year-old men with dementia, and other absolutely horrific instances of police brutality because, well, they actively recruit and many of our listeners already know this, they actively recruit police with lower IQ levels. In fact, there was a court case recently about that, in which they legally had the right to discriminate against you if your IQ was too high.
You know, a lot of this comes from the eugenics laws that we used to have back in the day, that people don't understand where the basis for this stuff comes from. This goes back like 100 years ago when it was okay to forcibly sterilize people. You know, there's still people alive that to this day are getting like, we'll say an award from the state, but even the state can't, it says that some states say they can't even afford to pay these people anything because they're so broke. But some people are at least winning and getting the knowledge that the state acknowledges what they did, and they were forcibly sterilized. And there's still like 2,000 people that are left alive that went through this. So it's amazing how over the course of a few generations they can take this stuff out of people's memory. You know, you don't talk about it. You don't see people sitting around the dinner table having family conversations, first of all, anymore. And when they did, you don't see them having conversations about anything, history. You don't see the fathers, sitting there as they're talking, maybe having, giving them a little history lesson or something. That's the way it used to be. It's not like that anymore. And they can just tell you, they can tell the kids whatever they want. They can feed their heads full of whatever they want, and they rewrite history. And kids don't even know.
Excuse me for just a moment, Popeye. I got to go turn the Super Bowl on for the kids. They're watching in the other bedroom.
Yeah, right. You don't have kids, so.
Yeah, well, that's the sort of thing that most parents will do to brainwash their children. And I think there's a balance there. I'm not going to poo-poo all of it. I'm not a completely evangelical, or not evangelical, that's not the word I'm looking for. I'm not a complete radical. I do think that there is a place for entertainment and art and plays and, that kind of thing up to a certain extent. But when it takes the place of teaching our children things like the trivium and about history, that's the problem. That's what leaves us vulnerable to living in a world out of a scene from the movie Idiocracy. That's what I fear. And the children are so important, Popeye, and that's a lot of the reason why I'm doing this is not just for our sake. I mean, we've had pretty good lives. The Federal Reserve notes are still afloat, even though they're based on debt. The resources are still somewhat there. The wars are still at a minimum. At least they're not in our backyard, which is a reason for people to neglect dealing with the situation, but not one for me, of course, because yes, it's somewhere else in the world, but we still have to look at the fact that we're all human beings, and I know that sounds hippy-dippy, and we need to care for our brothers and sisters elsewhere. So, but where was I? I digress. I think I was trying to make a greater point about the brainwashing of children. Yeah, I think schooling's a big part of that, Popeye. You put the kids through the public indoctrination camps. Go ahead.
That segues into a clip I want to play for you really quick, Bob, and for the listeners. Now, I'm sure you know that Newark, New Jersey is, I guess you could consider it inner city or whatever, and it has seen better times. And it's always got its share of corrupt mayors, like its current mayor, Cory Booker. This is the guy that wants you to rat on your neighbor for having a gun, and he'll give you a gift card. That's this guy. Well, now they're closing 7 schools in Newark. So as you can see, it's like Charlotte Iserby talked about. You take the educational system and it's already teetering, and they wait till it's about ready to collapse in on itself, and then they consolidate everything into bigger classrooms, and everything gets put on an iPad, and it's better for the kids and everything else. And it starts by screwing with the educational system, and you're watching it happen here. Check this out.
That is not right.
Newark parents and teachers are angry. These parents could not get in to listen to the school superintendent because there were already so many people inside. They do not like the school superintendent's plan to reform education. It includes closing 7 failing schools and possible teacher layoffs.
The people who have failed our children is the state of New Jersey.
One of those low-performing schools that's closing is Martin Luther King Elementary.
When my son been going here, he excels here.
School Superintendent Cammie Anderson defended her reforms, which also include creating new schools.
There are 15 and 20 schools in Newark where kids are stuck at 30% proficiency with declining enrollment.
Newark Mayor Cory Booker was not here tonight, but he says he supports Anderson and her ideas. What does Anderson think of these angry crowds?
My vision for tonight, was quite different than how it played out. Part of what I'd hoped for tonight was that it was the start. A rocky start, no doubt, but one that I hope continues.
So this is the first of several meetings. Other smaller meetings are going to take place in the neighborhoods where schools are closing, and the school superintendent is hoping to implement this plan in the new school year, September 2012.
So as you can see, they're going to consolidate the schools instead of having a class with, let's say 30 people or 20 people in it. You'll have 40 people. It'll be double the size. And I'm willing to bet that these new schools, first of all, why do you need to build a new school, Bob? They have, some of these school buildings are fine. Maybe they need to be a little revamped, but it would surely be cheaper to fix up the old structure, modernize it a little more than it would be to knock it down and rebuild a brand new one. I mean, some of these schools aren't that old, okay?
Well, so not in a price system. Not in the term, not in economic terms. The most, viable ways of dealing with it as far as money's concerned.
Because they can turn it over and sell the land and everything else. I know, you're right.
Right, and that provides more money. Go ahead, sorry.
No, you're right. It does. It provides them more income flow. It's disgusting. But that's why they'll do it. And they'll put in these charter schools that Charlotte is or be warned about. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to break. Stay tuned. We'll be right back. Ladies and gentlemen, we are back. It is Sunday, February 5th, 2012. Stupid Bowl Sunday, as it's otherwise known. And I want you to info jam the Super Bowl. So this is what we're going to do. We're going to do this right now. And for anybody that listens to the archives, I'm going to expand it that we should do this all the time. This is how we're going to info jam Twitter constantly, okay? Every day, there's something on Twitter that's a trending topic. Now, in reality, Twitter does block certain things from becoming trending topics, and they put other things up. So, like today, the top thing, because it's promoted and even says next to it that it's promoted, is hashtag Super Bowl. All, one word. Hashtag Super Bowl. So everybody that's got Twitter right now, go on and put in, oh my God, did you see this play? Or whatever you want. Be original. And put hashtag Super Bowl. And in there, put a link to some news story that's the real deal. Something health-wise, solution-oriented, information-oriented, anything. And just have at it. Now, there is what's trending is like Tom Brady and again, Super Bowl. So hit hashtag Super Bowl and then just Tom Brady. And there's a space in between his first and last name. And then anytime during the day, when you're not, even when this, you hear this on the archive and you say, well, Popeye, I can't, Super Bowl's over. Well, yes, you can, because you go on Twitter and you look at whatever's trending under the trending topics, and you pick 2 or 3 things that are major and that are used. Use your head and just think for a second, what is being used, what's being promoted to keep the masses dumbed down, and take that and info jam it, okay? And I have to give credit where credit is due. My buddy John Connor up in Canada, he's the one that came up with, he kind of coined the phrase info jam and came up with this way of, I guess, fighting the info war, you could say. And he's the one that, to his credit, really came up with it. So I don't want to forget and not include him. Thank you, John. I know you're listening somewhere in Kanadistan, and I want to give you a big thank you for giving, the stuff he does with his YouTube videos and stuff, and his whole Operation Info Jam kind of gave me the inspiration to do this with Twitter and the Super Bowl today. So I do want to give credit where credit is due. Bob, what say you? You think it's a good idea?
Well, I don't got a Twitter account, but yeah, why not? I love the idea. I think anytime we can exploit the distractions for our own use, it's a good thing. So absolutely.
I agree. People ask, why do we have, I know I've heard people complain about YouTube and say, I don't know why you still use it. You should go over to this new thing. I guess there's one called Zipcast or something now. And the reason is because the battle is on YouTube. That's why I will never leave. I'll open up channels elsewhere, but I won't leave YouTube.
Popeye, you really ought to get an account. And I know you're Mossad, so you really ought to get an account on YouTube.
Don't laugh, but there are things that are oriented. There are like websites that are oriented for race-wise. Like if you only want to date within your race and stuff. Or religion, whatever you want to call it. To me, I think it's kind of, I don't know. I guess if you're really hardcore, you could do that, but I don't like to meet. First of all, I don't do the internet dating game. I'm not into that. Ugh. You remember? Don't you read articles about people that get, they meet somebody on the internet and they end up in a friggin' wood chipper somewhere out in the Pine Barrens in Jersey or something? Maybe it's just me. I don't know. Maybe I'm old-fashioned. You ever meet anybody on like a chat room, Bob, and hang out with them in real life? I don't think I would do that.
Well, I met you in a chat room. Hung out with you in real life.
Well, that's different. I mean, like some random internet chat room.
No, but I would love to meet some of these chatters in our chat room.
In real life? I would
love to. Are you kidding me?
Box Bob Tuscan. I just thought of a new radio gimmick, Bob. There you go.
You know what,
ladies and gentlemen, you want a halftime show?
Mm-hmm.
Next year for the Super Bowl, we'll do boxing with Bob Tuscan.
All kidding aside, Pop, I just came out with an interesting question that we can ask the audience, and I'll ask you. Let's say we were to info jam the halftime show of the Super Bowl. What would you show? Would you show a documentary? What kind of exercise would you do in order to make the most out of that sort of, attention-grabbing event? How would you info jam the halftime show? Would you perhaps get Charlie Sheen on stage with the Coors or something? I don't know. Bad idea. But what would you do? Would you simply show the Remember Building 7 commercial? I mean, could you imagine if we had the Remember Building 7 commercial on during the Super Bowl?
Right. You know how many viewers that would get? You know how many people would be like, what? Building what? What happened? What now?
Building what? Yeah.
But yeah, that won't happen. I can guarantee you, if you paid, they probably, what do they pay? A couple $1 million for a 30-second commercial spot or whatever.
And the prices went up this year.
I guarantee you could double it, Bob, for that commercial. You could be a bazillionaire, rich dude that just wants to help out, and get the truth out about 9/11. And they could say, well, the normal spot's $1 million. And you could say, okay, put this spot in. I want a 30-second spot, and I'll give you $2 million. And they would probably say, well, even though that's double what we're asking for, we won't air the spot. And then they'll give you some crappy reason. I'm willing to bet they would not air that commercial. I don't think they would at all. But you'll see. I'm waiting to see what kind of police state or for lack of a better term, I guess Illuminati, and I'm doing air quotes, Illuminati themed commercials they're going to be, because there's going to be stuff where I'm willing to bet within the next week people are going to be able to dissect the commercials and be like, look, here, and here. Happens every year. I'm willing to bet money on it. That's how regular it happens. You know what I mean? Remember the Green Police? Remember that?
I'm sorry, Papa. What was that? I was distracted. I was paying attention.
You remember the Green Police, right?
I was watching this netball match on television. Netball.
Oh my God!
Is this netball or is this lacrosse? I can never tell the difference.
That's worse. What, do they have the Super Bowl of lacrosse on today too?
Yeah, I can't stand the Super Bowl, but I got to tell you, I'm a big lacrosse and cricket fan. Can you hear the crickets?
Yeah, I wish
Anyways.
I could play the noise.
Enough bad jokes tonight. Bob's Lame Jokes Emporium, folks.
Bob's Lame Joke Emporium. You can get Bob's entire stock of lame jokes for just $19.95 plus shipping and handling.
BobTuscan.com.
There's your halftime show. Ugh. I can't wait to see what kind of crap is in there. I'll just wait for Vigilant Citizen to go through it and break it down, and then
Madonna's going to come out wearing an anonymous mask. That's my prediction.
Well, she's a New World Order lackey. I mean, all her videos. There's one of her music videos. She's wearing the all-seeing eye right on her back on a jacket. So she's a lackey too. She's like the old school Lady Gaga. She was, Lady Gaga's like a more perverted version of Madonna. She's like this twisted, pansexual version of Madonna from 25 years ago. Goes to show you where society's at today, ladies and gentlemen. These are the kind of people and the kind of crap that your kids emulate and see and hear. We're going to break. We'll be right back. Stay tuned. InfoJam, the Super Bowl. So on this February 5th, 2012, the Stupid Bowl is going on right now, live, while I broadcast. I'm glad to say that our listenership has not dropped one iota because of it, so that's a good sign. But I want to introduce something special. Again, Operation InfoJam, the Super Bowl. Let's get out there. Steal their thunder. Come on, do it.
All right, this is Bob Tuscan reporting live with Popeye from FederalJack.com and the IntelHub.com. And yes, folks, people are actively twittering as we speak all sorts of exploitations of the key phrases and trending topics of the Super Bowl. And Popeye, back to you.
Thank you for that live, on-the-ground report, Bob. Be careful. I know the tweets are flying fast and furious. The last thing that was named Fast and Furious didn't go too well.
Oh, maybe we should tell people about that.
I thought I'd throw that in there. See? Bam! That's how you InfoJam, ladies and gentlemen. Now someone would say, well, Bob, Popeye, what's Fast and Furious about? In fact, Bob, I'll play the person that doesn't know. So, Bob, what exactly is Fast and Furious? I thought it was a movie.
Yeah, I was going to say, it is a movie. That's all I know.
So, it's, someone said that our government did Fast and Furious. I didn't see our government in the movie.
Well, let me explain this to you, Popeye. This is how it works. We supply the guns to the Mexican mafia, create this war on drugs, and smuggle the drugs and the guns to fuel the fire and the violence. And then, well, we try to cover it up as best as possible.
So, kind of like false flag operation, then, huh? Oh, wow.
Wow, you know the term false flag. Where did you learn that?
I've seen it on the YouTube a few times. I've seen that movie Loose Change and some other movies.
Loose Change. Yes, that's right, Loose Change. Yeah, Popeye, Popeye the moron I'm talking to, not Popeye the host. Popeye the moron. Have you ever watched the movie Pippi Longstocking?
Yeah, once when I was a little kid.
Okay, that's all I wanted to know. That's all I wanted to know. I was just curious.
Well, kidding aside, that's kind of the level of conversation that you would have. The reason I did a different voice was so people would realize that I was not being myself. I was trying to.
Really? I couldn't tell.
Yeah. But that's what you'll encounter when you InfoJam. So there you go. You just practice it out a couple times in your head before you do it if you're going to go talk to somebody. That way you know in advance what you might come across and you're already prepared for it. So if someone tries to hit you with something out of left field, like, yeah, well, how could they get into the building? Blah blah blah. And you could say, well, for weeks ahead of time there were electrical power downs and everything else. Well, I don't understand how somebody could just put bombs in the building. And you're saying George Bush sat in the White House with a plunger because that's what Chris Matthews said. You said.
Chris Matthews, yeah, he's a great source. Hey, speaking of info jamming, Popeye, if people don't like info jam, they can definitely check out some of Bob Tuskin's homemade organic raspberry jam. And for a limited time only, I will ship that out to people for only $4.99.
And where can they get that, Bob? At
BobTuskin.com, theintelhub.com. It's high fructose free, but it does have extra aspartame and fluoride in it.
Ah, very good. Does it come with its own pail of extra fluoride on the side, or do you have to add that?
And for a limited time only, Popeye, I will autograph it and attach a piece of my hair to the jam.
There you go. People will definitely buy your info jam then, Bob. Honestly, that would be, all kidding aside, that would be a great idea for somebody that has if they want to merge like healthy eating and information. That's another way to info jam and get out there and do it.
I like that. Make a new product. Info jam, folks. It's healthy, it's delicious, and it enriches your mind with all the tidbits you need to know
fruit
to take
and
on
stuff,
the new
dude.
world.
Real fruit.
Real fruit.
Organic stuff, no pesticides, none of that crap.
Death to
info
the new
jam.
world order. Forget eugenics. Eat this.
Seriously, how awesome would that be? I'll have some toast and some info jam, and then like on the label you can have like some sort of conspiracy fact. Fact, blah 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 blah. Fact, the Federal Reserve is a private organization. Fact, the CIA is a private organization.
An obscure Popeye, while we're being a bit wacky here, I just thought of a kind of an interesting idea, and this is totally off subject matter. But you know how you have those flip books? And if you draw a little cartoon, a little animation, if you flip through it, it looks like it's moving. Well, we should make a real-time Building 7 flip book that shows you the actual collapse of the building in the actual time it would take, 7 seconds or whatever it was near free fall speed. How cool would that be?
That's actually a good idea.
I don't know where the hell it came from, but
no. But you know what? That's a good idea. You give me a good idea. You give me another idea, Bob. For the rest of the show, we should throw out ideas of how people can maybe affect change in a positive way and do something like that. And I was serious, by the way, about the info jam thing. If there's somebody out there that has a farm or whatever, or has the ability to take real organic fruit, mash it up, and make jam, and you make some sort of jam, just call it info jam, and on the back you can put little factoids about things and like a reference source at the bottom where they can go. I'm telling you. And it would be like a collector's item. I'm willing to bet people would collect the jars with the wrapper on it and everything. They've done it before. It's a good marketing technique.
I love this jar here. This is the Intel Hub edition of the Info Jam. Oh, man. Have you tried the Popeye one, though? That's a little sour.
That's what I'm saying. You could do all different types of things. You could put you could have an article. You could put a little factoid and then source, and you could put Intel Hub and then just give them like a page ID number or something, and they can look right at the back of the thing and type it in, and boom, it brings up an article or Federal Jack or a YouTube video, or a book or whatever. I'm telling you, that would be a great idea. So if somebody runs with it, contact me. I'll give you advertising. That would be awesome.
And by the way, it's already trademarked and copyrighted by Bob Tuskin Incorporated, Mossad.
Bob already stole it. He wants to be a bazillionaire.
Yes. That's my official corporation name. Bob Tuskin Corporation, Mossad.
Yeah, I've heard that about you, Bob. Very upsetting. It's a shame. I've heard that you can be two-faced at times, although I've never experienced it myself, and I know you personally. So,
by the way, Popeye. This Monday last Monday on or the one before that, let's see if I can get my day straight here. We talked about circumcision. You remember that?
And release.
How could you forget, right? That was a fun show. Well,
God,
I talked about it in short with, yeah, exactly. I talked about it in short with Janice Barcelo on Monday's show, in which we talked about trauma-based hospital births. Fascinating show. I recommend it to everyone listening. But I'm going to be talking about it tomorrow with another guest from the circumcision, I don't know. I don't have my notes in front of me, but he has some organization that goes around trying to convince people of the dangers of circumcision and the trauma-based ritual. How did I bring this up? Why did I bring this up? I have no idea, but hey, I thought you might be interested in it, considering that I know you have such a deep thirst for knowledge when it comes to circumcisions.
Dude, I gotta tell you what.
For the purpose of that show, it will be no longer the Bob Tuskin show. It's going to be the Bob Forskin show.
Yeah, well, that video alone was, I gotta tell you, man, that and release snap. Oh, if anybody remembers that episode of WTF, it was like 2 weeks ago. Oh, Maron. Off air, all the men were groaning. Oh, it was painful to listen to. And release. Snap. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to break. Man, we can be so barbaric to each other sometimes. It's unbelievable. Final segment, ladies and gentlemen. Operation InfoJam the Super Bowl. And even after the game is done tonight, again, go out there. And if they're replaying it on ESPN, it's going to be a Twitter trending topic all night. Continue to do it. And even when it's not Super Bowl Sunday, don't just be inspired to do it today. Be inspired to do it every day. Be that change that you want to see in the world. For to rip off Gandhi's quote.
Yeah.
Be that change. Do something effective. Folks.
Be careful, because tonight's it can be dangerous. If you're on the roadway, you may be messed with unconstitutional DUI checkpoint in cities all around the country. They're implementing these, and they're against our constitutional rights. They might mess with you unneedingly, unwarrantedly. That's not the word I was looking for. Anyways, you know what I meant. And the fact of the matter is, even with that aside, there are still people, though, that drive very dangerously and are intoxicated, especially with alcohol and drinking for the Super Bowl. So be careful.
Yeah, I agree. And good point about the checkpoints, Bob. Very good point. The social engineers will push the law enforcement and to use the Super Bowl as an excuse to violate people's civil rights, because either people are drinking and driving, or you get the whole aspect of terrorism. We have to inspect every orifice of you before you go in because terrorism. It reminds me of that clip. You ever see Robot Chicken? You ever see what is it called, Adult Swim or whatever? You ever see that? It's on
maybe.
What do you call it? The Cartoon Network at night. It's what do you call it?
Adult Swim.
Yeah, it's like adult cartoons, but I'm trying to think what you would call it, because adult cartoon just sounds nice. But I mean, in reality, if you think about it, it's pretty weird that adults watch cartoons. Because when this stuff kind of first came out, that they used to say, I had people would say to me, Popeye, why do adults watch cartoons? I don't understand. Like the older generation people I knew, and they didn't get it because they didn't watch you know what I mean? They didn't watch cartoons when they were kids. Like a lot of people back in the 1800s, they didn't play sports, and the heroes weren't some sport, football player or anything. That was, you did that when you were a kid. When you got older, you had to be serious and be an adult. So it all ties in together. But yeah, let me find this little clip from Robot Chicken, and it's pretty much, it summed it up, although it was aimed at it was aimed at George W. Bush. It could still be used to point out like how absurd it is. Here it is. It's kind of funny. Let's see if I get flagged on the replay on YouTube for this. I'm sure I probably will, but whatever. It's all for you, ladies and gentlemen. Here we go.
I pledge allegiance to the hag of the United States of Fart.
Is this your child? He may think saying fart is funny, but by disrespecting America, he's encouraging terrorism. Even now, our enemies are searching for signs of weakness in our great land.
I was just trying to be funny.
America loves a joke, but not when the punchline is terrorism.
Oops, I only put on 49 stars.
Terrorism.
We just voted Democrat.
Terrorism.
Time to light the Hanukkah menorah, kids.
Terrorism.
Ooh, what about the core?
Could be good.
Terrorism.
Thank you for watching our latest Homeland Security video. We will be replacing the color-coded terrorist alert system with one that uses rubber duckies. Quack, quack. This one symbolizes all clear. His name is Engelbert.
Yes, so that's what I equate this to. That's what I think of when I see this, because it's just absurd and insane. But you like everything, terrorism, look under your bed, terrorism. And when she said, by the way, I only added 49 stars, and they came in and shooting, all of a sudden, it's funny, you have to see the video, but the quote unquote Al-Qaeda guys come running through her kitchen with AK-47s because she baked a cake like a American flag and only put 49 stars on the cake. It's a sarcastic way of being like, come on, man. This is out of control. And this was back then. Now, it's kind of ironic that you don't see them talking the same smack about the Obama administration. Everything's all hope and change, and he walks on water. So it's just really pathetic how one-sided some activism can be. Ladies and gentlemen, politics shouldn't be the word politics is kind of murky because there's politics with anything you deal with. But when it comes to this type of politics, okay, you should look at it with the knowledge that there is no really left or right, that it's a fake thing. Like the back of my business card says, it's got a picture of a shadowy Uncle Sam guy with a hat, and in the hat it's got the all-seeing eye, and he's got a puppet on either hand. And the one's Republican and the other one's Democrat, and he's got the two of them arguing with each other, and their eyes are like, like a hypnotist type, I forget what they call those things that they use to mesmerize people, but it's a little spinny, color wheel like that in each eye on the puppet to kind of show people, give you the idea, their visualization, that they're using that to brainwash you and mind control you. And that's what they do. They get people to argue with each other, and they don't pay attention to what's really going on. Obama signed the NDAA on New Year's Eve. Happy New Year. It's a 2012.
Let's bring in 2012. Exactly. Right? Hey, Popeye, I know we're running low on time here. So before we leave the airwaves, on Joe Joseph with Freedom Link Radio, one of my most hated shows. No, I'm joking. One of my most favorite shows is on coming up in just a moment. But did you hear about what's going on? Another example of, hey, don't look here, watch the Super Bowl. Right now there is a Russian nuclear facility on fire. But don't worry, the government says there's no threat. Are you buying it?
Oh, that's awesome. That's lovely.
A fire broke out on Sunday at a Moscow nuclear research center that houses a non-operational 60-year-old atomic reactor. An emergency official said, and Russia's nuclear agency said there were no open flames and no threat of a radiation leak. That's also what they said when Chernobyl took place and what they've said recently with the Fukushima disaster. We'll have to talk to the rad chick about this. I know she's doing reports for the Orion Talk Radio Network. We'll have to get her take. But folks, keep your eyes out on that and hope for the best and prepare for the worst as always.
Well, Bob, thank you for that. I didn't know that happened, but now I do. And like G.I. Joe used to say, knowing is half the battle.
But don't worry about that, Popeye. Don't worry about it. The football game is on. Let's go. Pass me those Doritos, please, with MSG. And let's drink a beer.
Yeah, and let's watch the Stupid Bowl halftime show. Or the equally as dumbing down, although I know it's cute, Puppy Bowl. which is just as bad because they don't want to watch that mainstream crap, so they watch a bunch of puppies running around playing with kittens and stuff, which is equally, it is cute and adorable, but it's still after, what are you going to watch? It's like going on YouTube, and the first thing that they promote on YouTube is the, kitten falling asleep videos. They don't bother to tell you things about leaking power plants or anything like that, and those videos get suppressed. Any truth, anything health, 9/11, news, World War III that's impending with Iran, anything. That gets suppressed, but kitty falling asleep, although, again, I'm not ragging on kitties. I have cats myself. Yes, they are cute, but, is that really newsworthy? Is that really front page worthy of YouTube?
Mega viral.
Right? How do those videos go that viral?
That's a good question. I don't know how that works exactly, but I had my video, the Rudy Giuliani video most recently, and it was on some pretty large sites. I'm not trying to boost my ego, but it was on very popular internet websites. I won't name all of them. Probably the listeners know of many of them. And that is the reason unto itself why it receives so many hits. Videos don't receive exposure unto themselves anymore. They have to be embedded elsewhere, and that's one of the things Soap on People is trying to combat. But it's an interesting
that's because
question.
YouTube has effectively censored their own content. The only thing that gets promoted on the front page is useless crap or some moron, shooting some, video with his USB cam, and he's just playing around, putting wigs on, acting up or acting like an idiot or, things like that. That's what they want people to see on YouTube. They want people to see what YouTube used to be. Remember when people used to ride their bikes off the roof of garages and stuff, Bob? That's what they want people to look for. They don't want people to go on YouTube and use it for news because that kills them. Even the mainstream media puts stuff up on YouTube now, and the alternative media that uses their clips still gets more hits than the mainstream media does on YouTube. Pathetic. You guys are losing. Well, ladies and gentlemen, the music's coming up. That means that we're out of time. Yes, Bob, we are winning. I want to thank my buddy Bob for coming on. Bob, thank you for coming on.
And I want to thank you, Popeye, and Vatican Ninja Warlock Assassins, theintelhub.com, bobtuskin.com.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for listening and hanging out with me during the Super Bowl. It has been an awesome F the Super Bowl Sunday. Info Jam the Super Bowl. Info Jam everything. A couple times a day. Take over Twitter. Take over Facebook. You use the social media networks against them. Check out Joe Joseph coming up with the Conspiracy Chronicles. I'm out.